What jobs are most exposed to AI? Learn this and more on the Focus Group.
They're all business, except when they're not. It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. Be sure to follow along with us and download all of our media, including our podcasts, TFG Unbuttoned, at focusgroupradio.com. And you'll find all of our current, past, present, whatever. There's got to be hundreds and thousands of episodes, John.
Well, there's a limited amount.
Is there a limited amount? And, on the... so if you're new to the program, we do banter, and then we have a segment we call Caught My Eye, where John and I share stories that we found throughout the week we think might be of interest. We do our signature segment, which is our business birthday, and then we have a shop talk, which is usually a business-related or a cultural pop icon sort of story at the end of the program. John, at the Unbuttoned, I went off on Costco.
Mm-hmm. On their prepared food and how it's changed in taste.
I was upset. Now I got a new one to go off on now. So I went to the doctor, and
okay.
Insurance is outrageous. We pay a lot of money for insurance when you work for yourself, and so the doctor says to me, "Oh, when's the last time you had a tetanus shot?" So
that's an unusual one. Normally, when was the last time you were bitten by a rabid dog, right? I mean,
so, you cut yourself, or he said you're at the age of where when you got this vaccine probably, or the shot in the 60s or whatever, that you need to get a booster. And we can do it right here. Do it right here.
Ching, ching.
Or you can go to CVS. I said, oh, okay. I said, well, we're here. I might as well do it here. Guess how much that tetanus shot was?
$160?
$479.
Did you have to pay for that?
Well, I'm fighting it. I just got another bill. Had I known it was that much, I'd have said no. Talk about the doctor pushing a tetanus shot. I assumed it was like all other shots, like COVID or something, was covered under your insurance. But I opened it up and I said, what is this $479? And I couldn't figure it out because the doctor's visit was $100. You can start adding it all up. And then it said shot. And I said, oh, my God. Like, I would have never gotten that shot for $400. Would you?
No. You bring up a great point. I got a courtesy bill for my flu shot and my COVID vaccine or my COVID shot from the insurance company. Because in New York, they're mandated to cover, I think all states are mandated to cover flu shot. COVID is state by state now because of the Trump administration. And the courtesy bill, I was like, "What? When did I get a shot that was $225?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's the flu shot and the COVID." And they were separate weeks because there are two different items on there. So I hear you. It's don't you wish it was more like you had a menu of like, here's what it's going to cost you?
Or do I really need to get a tetanus shot? You remember you and I were traveling. And you and I were overseas, and I had
four-wheeling.
I got hurt, and I called the doctor. And I remember calling my doctor because there was a language barrier where we were, and they wanted to give me this tetanus shot. And I remember you were kind of like, and we were all trying to figure out, like, should I get this tetanus shot or not? They wanted to give me on this ship. And so I called my doctor, and he's like, absolutely not. You don't. Did you get punctured by some rusted, piece of machinery? I said, no.
It was just rocks.
And I was afraid I was going to get, of course, then they had me go in the ocean, which, of course, I could have picked up all kinds of,
There's a lot of safety issues on that trip.
I mean, when you're cut, right? We thought, go in the ocean, the salt water will heal you. Well, no, you could have been full of all kinds of amoebas and all that kinds of other things. Probably get me sick. But the doctor said, absolutely not. And he said, you don't know how you're going to react to it, and on and on and on. And so when the doctor here said to me, why don't you get, you need to get a tetanus shot, I thought, my other doctor said I probably shouldn't do that. But anyway, I did it. I had no reaction to it. It was not like
Okay,
I got
that's
sick.
going to be my next question.
Yeah, nothing happened to me other than my arm was a little sore. But I think if the doctor said, oh, no, by the way, I don't think insurance covers it, or let's check to see if insurance covers it, or it's probably going to be $400. Well, why don't I think about it then? And then I would have done some research. But to spring it on me at my checkup, my yearly checkup, oh, by the way, you need to get a tetanus shot. It's the same thing with the measles. They're pushing the measles shot again. Or a measles boost. Have
like
you got
a
that?
Booster? Because we had it when we were kids. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pushing the booster now. So I don't know. Have you got that? Or have you been asked about the booster?
The one that I have not done that I need to. I haven't heard anything about measles from my doctor, but he is really banging the drum on Shingrix for shingles.
Yeah, I got that. You better get that.
And he said, look, you might have no reaction to either. Some people feel like they have the flu for a day and then it goes away and on the second shot. But yeah, I'm going to schedule that and take care of it because I had chickenpox as a kid. I think you probably did too, right?
I had no effects from Shingrix, but anyone I know who's gotten shingles says it's the absolute worst thing to get.
Worst thing in the world. Yeah. You know, I'm going to make sure I do that in the next 2 weeks. I'm going to schedule that. The pharmacy I go to right up the block, the pharmacist was like, look, most 90% of people don't have any reaction to it. Some do.
Yeah.
If you happen to be watching on YouTube, by the way, Tim and I randomly are in green today. I'm wearing, Tim, would you say this is hunter green? Like a
hunter
forest hunter green? And Tim is more of an emerald green.
This reminds me of the green of remember Murphy Brown's house in the 80s?
Yes.
The green wall. I love that wall. I painted my apartment that wall color, and then I got in trouble when I left. I lost my security deposit.
Because you painted a wall green?
Dark green. Well, it was white, and so I painted it green.
Oh, I didn't think about painting over that. That's going to be at least a couple of coats.
Yeah.
So I said to Tim when we signed on, I said, are we in early celebration of St. Patrick's Day? And Tim, I was going through a box, and I thought I had lost this, and I had to buy a new copy online at eBay. But look what I found.
Oh, my gosh. I was looking for mine. I can't find mine. I have it somewhere.
And I have an extra copy if you want me to send it to you, because I bought a replacement. But this is my original one from high school. It was $3.95, and I love the subhead.
$3.95.
Look, Muffy, a book for us. I started thumbing. There are pages that are definitely very worn that I referenced a great deal. But this was sort of, folks. This was sort of our Bible growing up, right?
Well, I loved the way it was how your dorm room was to be decorated, how your first apartment, what hors d'oeuvres you should serve at, your first.
What clubs to belong to, what holidays to celebrate.
We had Lisa Bernbach on a couple times. We should have her on again. She was a great guest, just because she was such a talker.
Yeah, we should, because she's our hero, right?
Yeah, she was a piece of work.
The very first time she was going to come on, Tim had a nightmare Amtrak day.
Yes.
You got to the studio as this segment ended, and Chip Kidd was with her because he had done the new prep handbook.
That's right,
cover.
True Prep, right?
True Prep. And Tim had worn his. Did you have your lobster corduroys?
Oh yeah,
on?
there's a picture of us somewhere. I look like Happy the Clown. I mean, the clothes I had the embroidered pants on. I had the sweater and I had the one over the shoulder and the pop collar and the whole deal on the train.
You look great. You look like you walked off the pages of the book.
There's a picture actually of us outside because I got there in time for you to just finish and close the show. And there's a picture. I'll have to post it to our Facebook page. A picture of you and I and Chip and Lisa.
It's a great picture, and you don't look the least bit
frazzled,
travel worn, or upset. But I
think that's the one where we hit the refrigerator. We hit the refrigerator. One time we hit a refrigerator. Another time we hit somebody. That was longer because when you kill somebody, you got to wait.
This was the refrigerator. You called from the train. You're like, you're not going to believe it. I'm stuck. We hit a refrigerator. And I remember Katie was still our producer, I think.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, Tim hit a refrigerator. I'm like, okay.
That damn Amtrak on Saturdays, it was a crapshoot.
Well, you'd get into the studio, Tim Roll, and he goes, well, the Uzbekistan Railroad was okay today. I made it on time. Yeah.
It was, in many ways, it's the best way to travel up and down the coast. I'll be curious to see what these new trains are like that they're bringing out. I don't know if you've seen the new ones.
I have, yeah.
I don't like the color scheme, but it happens to be green.
Some of them are like Acela, and some are the new diesel trains. Yeah.
Right, and they've gone from their blue to a green, which I don't quite. Maybe it's because they're trying to show they're energy efficient. That's code for energy efficient. Green.
Green. Tim, I think you may be onto something there. Very smart.
So we'll see. So, Mr. Nash, what has caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Mine's a short one. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube, there's a picture up of a young man holding a Chanel bag in one frame and a Chanel bag in the other. And basically the headline was, man lives with his parents at 31 years old. So he... I knew you were going to say that. So the full headline, he went viral for revealing what he buys instead of paying rent. A 31-year-old baker lives at home with his mom, dad, and older brother, and he went viral on TikTok for revealing what he spends his money on instead of rent. His name is Jason Ju, J-U-E. He was born and raised in Hawaii, has always lived at home because the concept was instilled in him growing up in a culturally Asian household. That explains a lot. Like a lot of Asian families have the whole family. There's grandmother, everybody's living together. He says here that after distributing the money he earns to his investments and savings, he splurges on designer bags and accessories. Now, nowhere in this piece does it say anything about his orientation. I'm making the assumption that if he's going out and buying Chanel bags, that he may in fact be part of the team. Not to be insulting, but... And in one of the pictures, he's holding up a bag, and it says, my January bank account 2026, negative $17,000. You don't just go buy Chanel bags, right? Like, Tim, how much is a Chanel bag? Like $5,000?
I would have, well, probably more. I would have no idea. I know those Hermes bags are outrageous. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure a Chanel is equally as much.
What's the crazy one? The Birka bag or the Birkin bag?
From Hermes.
There's a waiting list for that. It was on Sex and the City. So he began collecting designer fashion items when he started working at 21. He has since racked up over 30 bags and a few fine jewelry pieces, including his most indulgent splurge from Van Cleef & Arpels. I'm like, my mouth drops open. My parents are okay with my luxury purchases. In fact, every time I go to buy something, my mom is with me. She's always in the know of what I'm currently eyeing or wanting, says Ju, adding that it was actually his parents who bought him his first luxury piece, a bag from Louis Vuitton, when he was 16. Runs in the family, I suppose, right? But it's not like he's dishing out money carelessly. When it comes to shopping, I don't really have a budget per se. It really just depends on what the item is. If it's an item I've always wanted, I tend to save up for it and buy it. There is a certain price tag that I can't spend. Earlier this year, he wrote on TikTok that he was in the hole for 17 grand for a bag, a necklace, a bracelet, a wallet, and a bag charm. So that's kind of it, really. He got some heat online for living at home. And he said, no, this is quite normal in my culture. And my parent, we all get along great. Some people theorize that he's not doing himself any favors by living at home, in that he should really be out doing his own thing and socializing and having his own place. But there you go. He concludes by saying, everyone has different lives and we all live them differently. So he lives with mom and dad and he buys expensive handbags. So there you go.
Does that impress you when you see somebody with a male or a female with a expensive watch or a bag like that or something?
You know what? It used to. And then I remember when we first moved to Manhattan, Greg took us to Canal Street. We used to call it the Trays of Gold. So they had all these street vendors. They would have rip-off watches, Rolex, Patek Philippe, the whole bit. $5, $10. And that became the thing that I thought about for a while. I thought, are they really wearing the real thing or is it a fake thing? But it's sort of a status symbol. I remember once, you remember Dr. Hazel Kahn, Mr. Hazel Kahn?
Yes.
She once used a phrase that I'll never forget. She said, CMOs and the C-suite gang, they like going Rolex to Rolex. In other words, you have to spend that kind of money to be in the C-suite, whatever. But no, I'm not. I just kind of smile and think, well, if you want to spend your money on that, that's just fine, right?
Yeah, when I was in the auto business like that, Rolex was a big deal. If a dealer or somebody had a Rolex, I never desired one. I was happy with whatever watch I had or something. So I don't know. I find that's it's the same with some of the bags and stuff. I don't know. I think if you spent $15,000 or $20,000 on a handbag, I think if you have it and you want to do that, it's one thing, but I don't know.
You know, a watch that is $30,000 tells the same time as a $5 Timex, right?
Well, I used to always, our friend Kate would just boil it right down to the brass tacks. She said, essentially you're paying for a piece of paper on the dial.
She's right.
She said, the inside works could all be done by the Japanese somewhere, or the Koreans, or the Chinese. And she said, you're paying for a piece of paper, whether it says Cartier or it says
Patek Philippe or Rolex. Yeah.
So, because the hardware and some of that stuff she said, wasn't necessarily where the pricing was. It was the name of the piece of paper around the dial. Mm-hmm. Womp, womp, womp. So you might as well get a Timex, because there's something about that quiet luxury of a Timex, right? If you were very successful and you wore a Timex watch, oh, look at him.
That's the millionaire next door, right?
As you said, it tells the same time, and everybody uses their phones. My story couldn't be.
I was surprised by this, Tim. Tell me where you found this.
So it's popped up, and I just saw it again. I'm on a couple of state of Connecticut social media pages, and this has been bubbling up. So I'll read the headline. It says, "Bridge to Long Island. Connecticut lawmakers ask to study sound crossing." So this is probably one of these too close to home things for John and I. But so the state of Connecticut is in part of Long Island Sound. So there's a sound, which is a waterway about 15 miles or a little longer in some places to Long Island. And then you would go to Long Island, which people know the Hamptons or other famous areas. And then beyond that, you would have the Barrier Islands, which was Fire Island.
Fire Island,
we know. Yeah. And then the ocean. So, but anybody, if you live in Long Island, if you don't take one of the ferries, which are pretty efficient, you would have to drive all the way up through around the island, up through Westchester into Connecticut, right? You'd have to go and get on 95 in the Merritt Parkway. So if you wanted to go to, say, Yale, we'll just say you're going to Yale. If you didn't take the ferry, it could take you, I don't know how many hours, 2-3 hours.
Yeah, because you're going all the way around, right?
And or if you wanted to go to Boston or do any of these other things. So there's a developer in Easton, Connecticut, and he came up with this idea that they said this is not a new idea. This has been bubbling around for 100 years, they said, but it's come up again. And so it's a Connecticut developer. He's urging state lawmakers to take a close look at building a bridge across Long Island Sound. And they said it's an ambitious proposal, but there seems to be a lot of support for it. And the General Assembly in Connecticut has agreed to discuss it and come back with a recommendation to their findings no later than January 1st of 2027. They said it surfaced last September. The developer, Stephen Shapiro, he has his vision. He had a schematic done of a 14-mile span which linked Bridgeport, Connecticut to Suffolk County, Long Island. And as I said, the plans, they said, have been around for people's ideas to do this for about a century. Not long ago, and when Andrew Cuomo was governor, he actually in 2017 commissioned a study on the New York side to do the same thing. He wanted to build the bridge from Suffolk to Connecticut to Bridgeport. And the study, how much do you think it would cost to build the bridge? So this is what
and this is like a recent,
this was so Governor Cuomo had advanced to the point of construction. So they were studied the environmental impact. They had political support, but then they looked at the cost. So any idea? I would have no idea.
I don't remember how wide the Sound is, but you're looking at a bridge that's at least 2 miles long, maybe
14 miles.
14 miles. I'm going to put the price tag at $11 billion.
$50 billion. And there'll be overruns, right? There'll be cost overruns.
$50 billion.
So they said once Cuomo saw the price tag, the state of New York said, well, it's maybe not so quick. So now Connecticut's picked up on it. There's a Republican running for governor who thinks it's a great idea. But one of the other state legislatures said, we have a mile bridge that crosses the River Thames down in New London. We can't maintain that. How are we going to handle a 14-mile span into Long Island Sound? But they all talked about how they thought it would attract new business. They thought it would help ease congestion on 95 in the Merritt Parkway, particularly coming out of southern, Manhattan, New Jersey. And I think it would be great. I certainly would. It would be a great thing, I would think. But yeah, and I think it's just too cost prohibitive at this point.
When I'm looking at the picture that you provided, if you're on YouTube and you're watching the video, it's a cool rendering. The minute you said this was 14 miles long, I knew it was a long distance to the Long Island. I just thought, wow, I bet if they had a pedestrian / bike lane or like a thing out there, I would love to ride across something like that. That's a great ride. You go one way, both ways, you get 28 miles in, right?
Well, that's what people were saying. Could it also have mixed cycling? Use. Mixed use. Could it have light rail service to hook up to Amtrak from there, so you wouldn't have to go all the way into Manhattan if you're that part of Long Island?
Yeah.
So there would be a lot of great benefits, certainly. I'm surprised it's not been thought about or done sooner, but they did say that there's two points where there's very reliable ferry service that people take. Mm-hmm. And so that's all you get for now. You take the ferry boat.
That's all you get for now.
If there's, I can guarantee you this: if there's anything built, we probably won't see it in our lifetime, John. It's kind of like high-speed rail across the U.S. I had this vision that we would jump on a train in 2 hours to Chicago, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm still waiting to have cocktails in orbit. That ain't going to happen. But
So no. So hey, as many of you know, we have business birthday here. So without further ado,
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Sound like one of our guests. The
Balladino. Is that what you're getting at?
Helvetica. The Robert Kearns is our business birthday. Born March 10th, 1927. He died at 77. He was an American mechanical engineer and an inventor. He invented the most common intermittent windshield wiper and used in automobiles from 1969 to present. He patented his invention in 1964 after a few previous design attempts failed. And it's quite an odd story. He had been in the military. He was part of what is now the CIA, but it was called the Office of Strategic Services back then. In World War II, he came back. He earned a degree at the University of Detroit in engineering, and he claims the inspiration for the intermittent wiper happened during an incident at his wedding in 1953. He went to pop a champagne cork and hit himself in the eye and went blind.
Oh my! That was not where I thought you were going with that. Okay.
So a decade later, he blinds himself in the eye at his wedding. The champagne cork, bings him in the eye. They said a decade later, in 1963, he was driving his Ford Galaxy through a light rainstorm, and the constant movement of the wiper blades irritated his troubled vision because he had only the one eye. So he decided that he figured that he modeled this mechanism based on the human eye. So the intermittent wiper, he based it on the eye, which blinks every few seconds. So rather than continuously moving the wiper, he thought, particularly with his vision, if he did this intermittent wiper, it would help make driving easier. And we also know if it's just a light rain, you want an intermittent wiper. So he went to Ford and they said, oh no, we like the idea, but not necessary. And of course they copied it.
So you're going in a direction. All right, continue. I'm sorry.
So it says Ford representatives liked the idea and hoped that they could rush it into the models of the upcoming year. But they later abandoned plans after Kearns had begun setting up manufacturing facilities. So Kearns was going to make these for Ford, and they were going to go ahead and do it. They said Ford ends up introducing the feature in 1969, and Kearns went and challenged the automaker. And they said, well, it was your idea, but it wasn't really proprietary because you used parts off the shelf. You didn't really do anything different. He said, no, I did. I took non-ordinary parts and put them together and made something that works. So this was a lawsuit went on for 9 years. So he couldn't find an attorney to take the case, if you could believe it or not. So he represented himself. And they opened the case. He started proceedings in 1978, and the case ended in 1990. He was seeking $395 million in damages. Jeez. And Ford finally Ford offered him $30 million.
Okay.
And he said no. So it ended up going to a jury, and the jury only awarded him $5.2 million.
Oh.
So he was really mad. And then, of course, he was representing himself. So then Ford agreed to give him double. So they gave him $10 million in the hopes he would go away and avoid litigation. So he took that. But then he went right after Chrysler, 1982. Chrysler took this. So he ended up getting from Chrysler about $30 million. Then he had another lawsuit. He ended up suing after Ford and Chrysler. He sued Porsche, Volkswagen, Ferrari, Volvo, Alfa Romeo, Lotus, Isuzu, Mitsubishi, Nissan, Peugeot, Renault, Rolls-Royce, Saab, Toyota, General Motors, Mercedes-Benz, United Technologies, and Bosch. See, quite a lawsuit going on.
Wow. He went down the list of manufacturers, huh?
Because they all took his idea and nobody paid for it. So he, they said through decades and decades of litigation, he was dropped by 3 law firms, but he always continued to also represent himself. Several of the cases were dismissed, and he was and there was no money exchanged, but he was able to certainly claim that his patent was valid and that he should be paid for his invention. It ruined his life, though, essentially. They said he spent all his time with these lawsuits, that his wife and 6 kids, he kind of ignored the family. So she divorced him.
Oh, my God.
There was a documentary done where Kearns is played by Greg Kinnear. And the name, it's a 2008 film based upon this, and it's called Flash of Genius.
This is how I know this story, because I saw this movie. And Greg Kinnear plays him as
plays Kearns. Mm-hmm. So it says Kearns' obsessions broke down his 27-year marriage and caused distance between him and his children. He later remarried. However, he died in 2005 of a combination of prostate and brain cancer, complicated by Alzheimer's. But yeah,
so that movie,
did you?
That Flash of Genius,
yeah.
Yeah, it was $20 million to produce, and the box office was only $4.8 million. I thought it was a fascinating story, but his story reminded me of Tucker.
Was it more documentary? Yeah.
Well, it's one of those business movies, right? Like, The Social Network, Flash of Genius, Tucker, where someone goes against the major corporation. Tucker was the car builder who was going to build a better car, but got railroaded. This guy, though, I thought it was an entertaining movie, but it didn't catch fire at the box office. But it's such a fascinating story, right?
Yeah, I'll have to look at it. Did you enjoy the movie, though?
Yeah, I learned about it. I learned from it, and when I learned that it was based on a real story, this guy invents the intermittent blade, or the motor that does the windshield thing. Everybody kind of steals the idea, claiming it was off-the-shelf technology, even though he's the only one that put it together. It was not badly done. I think you might enjoy it. Not documentary, because it's certainly had its little dramatic elements, but what a good business birthday and fascinating. Wow, I didn't realize either that his fixation caused the breakup of his family.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's all he spent his whole life in litigation and filing to try to chase down all these manufacturers. And when he gets $10 million.
I would have stopped after $10 million.
Well, when he got $10 million from Ford and then $30 from Chrysler, that's $40 million. I suppose you could do a joint. You can go after the other ones, and I'm just shocked that now I don't know how they portrayed him. I don't know if he was crazy guy or whatever, but to have 3 law firms drop you, to me, it looks like a open and shut case. Somebody steals your idea. So why would these law firms not take it and say, I want a piece of it? That surprised me.
Maybe he wanted to, well, you said he did his own litigation, right?
Yeah, well, he ended up having to represent himself because the law firms would drop him all the time. Maybe it was just a pain in the ass.
And maybe he didn't want to pay. You're every time you pick up that phone, you're on the clock.
Yeah, that's
fascinating story, though, and it's definitely a David and Goliath, right? You're going up against the giant, and maybe that slingshot's going to take him down. Excellent business birthday, Tim. We are going to pause for a moment, take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a story that comes to us from Anthropic, the makers of Claude, one of the AI chatbots, and it's from the CEO who looks at industries and professions that are probably the most prevalent on the chopping block in the near future. With those cheery words, stay tuned.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Now back to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Available pretty much everywhere.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Focus Group. Tim Bennett here, as always, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John T. Nash. We're both in green today, if you happen to listen to the audio.
Unplanned.
Before our quick break, John had mentioned we have a Shop Talk focus group here. The headline is Anthropic is tracking which jobs are most exposed to AI, the 10 professions that top the list. And they say that there's a early warning system that the AI chatbot Claude has developed, I guess, that's going to expose what white-collar roles may sit near the front lines of jobs that may be either in danger or have a lot of it being taken over by artificial intelligence. And I know we all use parts of AI a lot. Do you use Claude or use ChatGPT? Which one do you use?
My three go-to are Claude, ChatGPT, and Gemini, which is Google's. Gemini, they give you slightly different responses. Yeah. And you and I could do a whole show on what I've learned about AI and about prompting and about asking questions, treating it like a person, treating it like an employee. Consistently, though, ChatGPT does really well, for me at least, if I have a legal question. I'm on our co-op board in the city, and I'm surprised by what comes back. But of course, these large language models are all skimming the data from everywhere. And what's one of the most prevalent forms of data online and in data like Nexus, Lexis? Law stuff. So it's pretty good. And with writing, I think that if you're doing writing and editing, I would say Claude is your first place to go to. And then Gemini is kind of a catch-all. It has a great art program too called Nano Banana. Anyway, sorry to take your...
Do you pay for any of them?
I have in the past. And it does give you a slightly different level of access and a level to a higher, better model. They're all about $20 a month. The one I paid for quite a while ago is called Midjourney. It was exclusively for an art experiment that I was doing. Wild what it does. And I think that you're doing some work lately, Tim, where you're seeing it pop up in an area that we know really well, which is like automotive photography and shoots, right?
Yeah. And whereas used to what you would call, you would need a whole crew to close a road or to shoot a product in the snow or to shoot something in the rain or the evening or the city or country. You can replicate pretty darn accurately the environment you want to for thousands of dollars less.
Yes.
But you still need the human intervention, which I guess is part of the story too, is because there needs to be an art director, like somebody like yourself, to say, that's really not quite what I'm looking for, or that's really not the right placement of that tree, or you can't put that in front of the product like that, or you can't make up clothing. It has to be real stuff to a certain extent on some things. But so this went
Tim,
through.
think about this for a second. When Tim used to do, I met Tim in Palm Springs once after he did a photo shoot for the, what was it? I want to call it the Clavius, but it's the
B9 Tribeca.
The B9 Tribeca.
The world's worst named SUV.
And Tim drove up in, I think you were driving a Tribeca, and I said, "Oh, that's an interesting color." You said, "Oh, it's not real. It was a peel coat." I learned a lot that trip because that was where they could actually put a vinyl thing on the car to change the color of it for photography purposes, pull it right off. But we were at dinner one night, and Tim was telling me every single person that was on the set, there was the craft, there's crew, there's photographers, there's assistant photographers, there's people who do the lighting. There was even the guy you would hire to wet the roads with the truck.
Big water truck there all day to wet the roads.
Yeah. So when you switch this to having it done in AI, it may not be perfect, but look at all those people that are no longer, getting a paycheck, right?
Yeah, no, it's certainly going to upend. And it's interesting, not that those jobs are as prevalent as some of these 10 that they list here. But that's a whole industry in California when you think about shoots and video shoots and movie shoots or documentary TV, any of that sort of thing. If you did a car chase or you do, I'm going to be curious to see how it happens or what it does with movies. Although a lot of movies have, they're probably far ahead with this technology
with
anyway.
digital effects. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't you think?
Oh, definitely. And on that last one you were talking about, Tim and I were in a car in Los Angeles. We were going to a meeting or an interview or something. And Tim just looks out the window and goes, "Oh, they've done this with, you named 3 auto brands that recently had used that stretch of road.
Same bridge.
One in the evening, one, yeah exactly. One in the daytime." So,
yeah. So this goes through a number of professions that they think will be considered most exposed to artificial intelligence. And the first one they talked about was computer programmers, because they said they estimate 75% of what computer programmers do can now be done through AI.
Correct.
So
now there's a guy that Tim knows well. He used to do our website, Daiska, a good friend of mine, web designer, coder, programmer. Last time I saw him for lunch, that is not his job anymore. He said that just went away a year ago. And even his high-level job of examining the code that is in fact generated by AI, not long before that's done by and he could ask the chat, like, "Why did you do this code this way?" "Oh, I did it this way because of whatever." He said it's very sophisticated. So if you're in school right now for computer programming, get AI under your belt, I guess, right?
So is his job pretty much
gone?
Taken? Really?
Mm-hmm. He said, "Go home and try this." He goes, "Open up Claude or Chat." He goes, "Send it the URL to your website and ask it to recreate it and give you the code." You'd be shocked. I don't really know what to do with it once I get the code. And I had to do some stuff to figure that out because I'm rebuilding our focus group website now, but much different than even 2 or 3 years ago. It's shocking. And the next one on the list that Tim was going through is customer service rep. This one I guess we've had automated systems for a while now, right?
Yeah, well, you and I talked about with SiriusXM. You don't even talk to anybody anymore.
Nope.
I'm assuming that's
all done by AI.
Chat.
Yeah.
Number 3 was data entry keyers. I was trying to figure out what that is, because I thought if you're an accountant and checks are coming in or something, and you have to I don't know. I was wondering about what this meant. Unless it's just simply feeding data into a spreadsheet. I don't know. I don't know what a data entry keyer was.
I wonder if that's like, let's say in the insurance industry, when forms get submitted to a company, is there like some part of the company where it's keyed in first before, and then it becomes an electronic record and moves forward if it's on paper first? Or it's a strange one. I agree with you. But then again, the next one, number 4, is what I was just saying, medical records specialists. Now, I think this is a bit different. Yeah. I think this is analyzing records to draw information out of, possibly.
Yeah, medical record specialists.
Specialists, yeah.
Maybe it's a filing. I don't know.
The key codes for different things, because they have all codes for like hangnail,
for insurance,
tetanus shot. $400.
Right. Number 5, market research analysts and marketing specialists.
By the way, that's a 65% probability that this is going away very soon. What did you think of that one?
Well, again, market research, I can understand that. I guess you could key in something and probably come up with, can you give me a target audience for this pen or something, right? But from a marketing specialist's point of view, I think that's a human one-on-one, in-person experiential sort of thing. So I don't, unless they're looking at a marketing specialist as something different. Maybe it's a copywriter. Maybe they're just calling it a marketing specialist.
I know from the marketing and the research side, a friend of mine who's a partner at an agency, they set up their AI to actually mimic focus groups. They'll create a focus group. It has these following people, and then they feed it an ad campaign or they feed it copy and it gives them results. It's kind of odd.
So a fake focus group?
Digital, yeah.
Digital,
sort of, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Next up,
what was number
sales reps, 63%. I'm finding it hard to believe that a computer or AI could replicate a guy hammering away on the phone or the email to finally get you on there to look at a sample or something. But hey.
Right, or you say, I'm interested in safety. I don't care what it costs or something.
Yeah.
I mean, there's too much nuance there. Financial investment analysts, I guess, again, when you look at numbers and stats, you could see where this is going. Although I think when it comes time with somebody's money, it's like with banking. I want to talk to a real person. Mm-hmm. If I have a problem with my bank, I want to be able to either go into a brick and mortar place and talk to somebody or get a live person on the phone, right? You do what?
I agree. I'm
totally
with you. Although Bob's niece, Catherine, graduated college recently. A friend of hers graduated recently and works for a Wall Street investment firm. She uses AI a great deal, but she is providing research documentation to the brokers and the traders who talk to customers. So on the back end, she's using it to collect all the data she needs to help them make decisions for their clients. I get that. The next one up here was software quality assurance analysts. This makes complete sense. If you have a AI system significantly sophisticated enough to actually run software to find the bugs, this is a big time saver.
Then another one, information security analysts. Which
Same
I guess
thing?
I was going to say the same thing. So if somebody tried to hack into your system, right, or you'd be able to find it a lot quicker than maybe doing it the traditional
Looking
way.
for weakness, I suppose. And the last one here, number 10, was computer user support specialists at 47%. Interestingly, that's 47% chance of that being wiped out soon versus computer programmers at the top of the list, 75. I think that last one means that's a human interaction thing. You can never quite, because you're helping someone use the computer. So you have to have a person involved, right?
Right. It's like going to the Genius Bar at Apple. You're going to be talking to a robot.
I love the Genius Bar. I brought a computer in one time. I knew the motherboard was fried. I had done this test. I printed out. I go into the Genius Bar, and the guy says, "What's wrong?" I slipped the paper over. I said, "I think the motherboard is damaged." And he goes, "Okay, you'll have this back in 2 days." I'm like, "It took 4 minutes with the Genius." And he takes the laptop. He goes, "It's backed up." I said, "It's backed up." I said, "What do you mean? Why is it so short?" He goes, "You did my work for me. Thank you. Have a great day. We'll call you when it's ready." So anyway, that's
you should work at the Genius. You should go to the Genius. Did you ever apply to the Genius Bar, John?
I did. I applied years ago to Apple. You can do that, and they sort their candidates very carefully. I think I'd be terrible. I think I'd be very bad. You and Bob would agree that I might not be a good Genius Bar.
Well, you don't have a lot of patience. Because you think everybody's as tech savvy as you, and they're not. You're tech support at all your places.
What did I say to a genius one year? I went up, I said, what is the most common thing that you see at the Genius Bar? He goes, "Tears." And I laughed and I said, "Tears?" He goes, "No one backs up." He said, "When someone comes in with a broken iPhone," I'm like, "Of course you backed it up." "No, all my photos." So there you go.
Yeah, well, you understand. The end of this says, jobs such as groundskeepers, cooks, motorcycle mechanics, lifeguards, and bartenders ranked among those with the lowest exposure.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about any of that, I suppose. Lifeguard, I
Plumber,
hope, yes. Bartender.
Ditch digger, electronics, or like wire. Yeah. What if you don't want to do that, though, in the future? What if you don't want to be a carpenter? What if you want, I don't know that anybody's really, really thinking about this. They're just full steam ahead. We got to have AI before China. We got to have it now.
Well, how soon do you think? That's the other thing kind of about this. They said a lot of people are fearful this is going to happen next week or next year. They're saying, maybe not so quick, but it is going to be pervasive within our work environment going forward. But we've heard things, in 3 years, it's going to be radically different. We're going to lose 20% of our workforce. There's all these sort of comments. But I don't know. Some things that I've seen have already dramatically changed. You and I have dramatically changed. We don't, we used to hire certain people. We don't hire anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Tim, you bring up a great, and for a small business like the one that Tim and I have, it's a godsend. Especially if you're getting if you know how to ask the right questions and prompt the system correctly, we tend to get pretty good work out of it. Of course, it takes a while, but it's not this. Yeah, and it's not the same though as hiring somebody for $1,500 to come up with tagline or whatever it may be. So it's interesting. I think that a lot of the predictions say that by 2030 to 2032, we'll be seeing some of the major impacts on jobs and employment based on AI. It's got a way to go, though. I mean, these data centers are enormous. They chew up electricity like no one's business. I don't know if that's going to slow the industry down. And there's no regulation really, and that's what they want. They don't want it to be regulated, and it really should be.
And people don't want these data centers in their neighborhoods either.
Not in my backyard, NIMBY. Not in my backyard.
Did you hear how loud they apparently are?
Yeah, fans going
loud
all the time. Yeah.
So
you throw that in with the Bitcoin miners. It's like,
well, I don't know anything about that. I feel like we're absentee. We're going to miss that. We're going to miss the Bitcoin craze.
Tim, before we die, we should have a complete list of everything we missed. It's going to be from my shoulder down to my hand. It's all single space. It's going to be, wow, we were really behind.
Like a friend of mine posted that he had just bought 9 acres of land with his Bitcoin investment. I was like, how? All right. Now, another friend of ours we know well, she invested in Bitcoin in Chicago. And it went up, and now it's just hovered to about where she bought it. So she's kind of kicking herself. She should have sold it. But I just don't know. You and I have talked about this before. Again, I guess we're going to sound like two old grandpas here, dinosaurs here. But I wanted to ask her, how are they paying you? What are you getting paid in?
Numbers.
I guess she bought it with dollars, right?
Yes.
Or
and
did
the
she
way
buy
the tokens?
Or did she scan a picture of a bunny, and that gave her $1,000 worth? I don't know.
Yeah, someone has to buy the coin from you in a transaction that eventually is cash based at some point. I don't know. It is what it is. The world of tomorrow, Tim, is not what we were promised. I didn't know when we were younger, there was no Bitcoins, and if it was an AI, it was a robot. Like something that Richie Rich would have owned, right?
Well, it's like you said, there were amphibious cars in the 60s, or all these things. I thought it'd be like the Jetsons, right? You jump in this little.
Hey, you duplicated that voice really well. That's
head right up to New York.
Fly right over the Amtrak train that just hit a deer or a refrigerator. Yeah. All right, folks, we're going to leave it there for the day. Thank you for joining us here on the Focus Group. I know you have many, many podcasts to choose from. A reminder that our website is focusgroupradio.com. You can learn about us there, including TFG Unbuttoned, our Tuesday podcast. It's about 20 minutes, 3 stories that we want to make you aware of. We always like to say that Tim started this years ago, and I think it's relevant today as it was when he started saying it. Don't text and drive, arrive alive, because we want to see you here next week on the Focus Group. Take care.
It's the Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.